It's shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
I'm about to address the things as the supervisor. There will be no comments. There will be anything that is being addressed.
Though it may seem like the plot of a political thriller, the unfolding drama in Dalton, Illinois, a small village once known for its quiet streets and peaceful living, has drawn unexpected attention for all the wrong reasons. At the center of this controversy is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose tenure has been marked by an aggressive pursuit of power, questionable dealings, and a disregard for accountability. Her leadership style came under intense scrutiny during the appointment of Police Chief Lacey. What initially appeared to be a routine decision quickly unraveled to expose a web of political maneuvering. Critics allege that Lacey's appointment was not based on qualifications or a commitment to public service but on his alignment with Henyard's interests. The mayor's intentions became glaringly clear. She sought a figurehead she could control, someone whose loyalty would help her consolidate power and eliminate opposition. This strategic choice underscored a broader pattern in Henyard's governance, where loyalty was valued above merit, and dissent, no matter how principled, was swiftly suppressed. Decisions affecting Dalton's safety and administration appeared driven more by political calculation than the welfare of the community. The implications of Lacey's appointment and the fallout that followed revealed a system where personal and political interests seemed to dictate governance. While many Dalton residents have long voiced concerns about Henyard's approach, her inner circle or those benefiting from her rule continue to defend her leadership, some even calling her the best mayor the village has had since 1990. However, public opinion remains deeply divided. Many residents feel betrayed, lamenting the shift from transparent, service-oriented governance to a model clouded by favoritism, opaque practices, and decisions prioritizing personal gain over the public good. One of the clearest examples of this dynamic is Henyard's use of Lacey as a compliant enforcer, ready to support her contentious decisions. Once proud of its reputation as a tight-knit community, Dalton now faces the reality of being seen as a cautionary tale of unchecked political ambition. Critics argue that Henyard's strategy of surrounding herself with loyal allies like Lacey has entrenched a system resistant to reform, undermining the integrity of Dalton's institutions. As a result, the village confronts not just a leadership crisis but a deeper reckoning about accountability and representation. Rising public scrutiny and growing discontent from local stakeholders leave Dalton's future uncertain. Whether the village can recover from these turbulent times depends on its residents' ability to demand and enact meaningful change, placing the collective good above the ambitions of a few. The road ahead may be difficult, but the question remains whether Dalton can reclaim its values and restore the trust that has been lost. Further complicating the situation is a series of controversies and scandals that have thrust the community into turmoil, with Henyard's tenure described by critics as a masterclass in dubious governance. Allegations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and blatant abuse of power have left residents deeply divided and unsettled. Her administration's tendency to sideline opposing voices was starkly highlighted when a judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking her from making certain appointments without prior approval, an unmistakable legal rebuke underscoring the contentious nature of her leadership. At the heart of this drama is Deputy Police Chief Lacey, who, rather than serving as a neutral enforcer of law and order, has been seen by many as Henyard's unwavering shield and accomplice. Critics argue that Lacey has helped the mayor consolidate control and suppress opposition. Far from being a passive participant, he has been accused of actively assisting in the execution of Henyard's most controversial plans, often to the detriment of the community. Whispers around town paint Lacey as a central figure in Dalton's ongoing political saga, a man committed to ensuring Henyard's agenda proceeds unchallenged, regardless of the cost. His actions have allegedly included silencing outspoken residents and intimidating trustees who dared to question Henyard's decisions, all to maintain her grip on power. Many residents believe Lacey's primary loyalty lies not with the community but with Henyard herself, which has deepened the mistrust between the administration and the people it is supposed to serve. Rather than focusing on protecting and serving Dalton's citizens, Lacey has been seen as safeguarding Henyard from scrutiny, further entrenching the perception of a leadership driven by self-interest. His close alignment with the mayor has left the village grappling with a crisis that goes beyond political differences. It is a fundamental breach of trust, as the pillars of transparent and accountable governance are now in question. Despite these allegations, Henyard's supporters, often those benefiting from her power, continue to champion her as a visionary leader committed to progress. But for the broader population of Dalton, frustration and disillusionment prevail. The judge's intervention, which temporarily limited Henyard's authority, has done little to restore confidence in an administration many view as prioritizing personal gain over the welfare of the community. Once a quiet, tight-knit village, Dalton has become an unlikely stage for a dramatic and troubling saga, illustrating how unchecked ambition and misplaced loyalty can erode the very institutions meant to protect and serve. As Henyard's governance continues to face scrutiny, more voices within the community are speaking out, despite fear of retaliation. The stakes have never been higher. Whether Dalton can rise above the shadow of this era and restore its reputation as a peaceful, principled community remains uncertain. For now, the village stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of power wielded without accountability or integrity.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 19.
What makes the situation in Dalton, Illinois, even more remarkable is the sheer audacity with which Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Deputy Chief Lacey appear to operate, carrying out their controversial dealings in full public view. A glaring example of this is the incident in which Lacey allegedly resorted to coercive tactics to intimidate village trustees into compliance, particularly those questioning Henyard's financial practices or decisions that could expose her questionable activities. Trustees responsible for overseeing the village's finances reportedly felt immense pressure, with some even claiming they were subject to veiled threats if they failed to support Henyard's initiatives. Meanwhile, residents began noticing that Lacey's actions were far from aligned with the responsibilities of a public servant. Instead of focusing on the safety and well-being of the community, his primary role seemed to revolve around protecting Henyard from scrutiny and neutralizing any opposition to her agenda. This dynamic grew increasingly alarming as reports surfaced suggesting that Henyard and Lacey's relationship extended beyond political favors, potentially involving a misuse of public funds for personal indulgences. Evidence began to emerge pointing to extravagant spending that prioritized personal gain over the community's needs. One example was a highly scrutinized transaction revealing over $3,000 in purchases on Amazon using village funds. These expenses had no clear justification in serving Dalton's residents but reflected a disturbing pattern of financial mismanagement. Yet this was only the tip of the iceberg. One of the most glaring instances of financial recklessness involved the use of $85,000 in public funds to host a lavish party, raising serious questions about the mayor's priorities and fiscal responsibility. This misuse of public money, reportedly orchestrated by Henyard and enabled by Lacey, cast a dark shadow over Dalton's leadership, leaving residents outraged and distrustful. Henyard and her inner circle appeared to treat public resources as their personal bank account, funneling money into luxuries instead of addressing the village's pressing needs, such as improving infrastructure, enhancing public safety, or supporting essential services. These spending habits not only demonstrated a blatant disregard for transparency and accountability but also reinforced the perception that those in power were more focused on self-enrichment than fulfilling their obligations to Dalton's citizens. As residents voiced their concerns, many questioned how such activities could occur with such impunity. Unfortunately, their inquiries were met with indifference or hostility from an administration determined to hold on to power. The situation in Dalton has become a symbol of governance gone awry, where those entrusted with the community's future seem more concerned with personal benefit than the public good. From intimidation tactics to financial extravagance, Henyard and Lacey's actions represent a shocking betrayal of public trust, leaving the village to grapple with a growing sense of disillusionment and an urgent need for accountability.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard is suing some village trustees.
Not only did Deputy Chief Lacey profit from the misappropriation of public funds, but Mayor Tiffany Henyard also ensured her loyal deputy was well cared for, even if it meant hosting extravagant dinner parties, giving expensive gifts, or simply leaving large sums of money at his disposal. As is often the case when things seem too good to be true, Lacey's privileged position under Henyard's corrupt leadership came crashing down. Lacey's close ties to the mayor, once a source of power, were called into question after two village trustees, Trust Holes and Trustee S. Brown, broke ranks and exposed the extent of the corruption. Lacey, whose political allegiance had previously been unwavering, now found himself embroiled in a lawsuit involving the very trustees he had once relied on for support. As Henyard's wrongdoings caught up with her, her political empire began to crumble from within. Once Henyard and Lacey had seemed untouchable, but now their inner circle was breaking apart. Insiders who had been close to both Henyard and Lacey turned against them, further escalating the already rampant controversy. Things took a darker turn when rumors began circulating that Lacey, long viewed as the mayor's enforcer, had engaged in tax evasion, adding fuel to the fire of his growing legal troubles. A judge ruled against Henyard, declining to hold her in contempt but warning her that future defiance of court orders could have serious consequences. Meanwhile, the walls were closing in on Lacey as well. Once Henyard's right-hand man, Lacey was now under intense scrutiny as investigations into the misuse of public funds heated up. Legal documents and court testimony revealed the full extent of his and Henyard's involvement in shady activities. As the pressure mounted, insiders claimed that Lacey's once cool and collected demeanor began to crack. Reports surfaced that he started cooperating with authorities in a last-ditch attempt to save himself, signaling a sharp break from his past loyalty to Henyard. Suddenly, the loyal enforcer who had helped suppress dissent was spilling details that could further unravel Henyard's corrupt empire. But Lacey's fall from grace didn't end with his cooperation. His legal issues had only just begun. He faced accusations of civil rights violations, tax evasion, and misuse of public funds. An irate resident's comment perfectly encapsulated the public sentiment surrounding Lacey's downfall, particularly regarding his civil rights violations. He deserves a life sentence for his actions. Even the police union, which had previously supported him, issued a statement calling for Lacey to serve time in prison for his role in the scandal. His once dominant position had collapsed, and now he was forced to face the full force of the law. A growing number of lawsuits piled up, each one demanding accountability for the misuse of taxpayer money. At the same time, residents began to question the very legitimacy of Lacey's appointment in the first place. How had he been sworn in? Was it a legal process or just another example of Henyard's questionable activities? Rumors had swirled for months without any definitive answers, leading some to speculate that Lacey had been slipped into his position under the radar. One frustrated resident remarked that it felt as though Lacey's appointment was carefully orchestrated to avoid scrutiny. "We deserve to know the truth," they said. When the truth finally came to light, it was clear that Henyard's hold on power was slipping. Her reputation, once seemingly untouchable, was in ruins. Her once loyal enforcer, Lacey, was now facing multiple charges of his own, a stark fall from grace for both individuals. The public was left questioning how such corruption had been allowed to flourish for so long. Despite earlier questions about Lacey's appointment, it remained unresolved, a loose thread in the tangled web of corruption that had engulfed Dalton. The village, once proud of its small-town charm, now found itself in the midst of a political disaster. Lacey, once an embodiment of Henyard's unchecked authority, had become the focus of an explosive legal and public dispute. The fallout from Henyard and Lacey's actions went far beyond the two individuals. Their corrupt practices had destroyed the community's trust in Dalton's leadership. Residents who had once placed their faith in local government now found themselves questioning everything from the extent of the corruption to the very integrity of those in charge. The damage to the community's trust was profound, and many wondered how Dalton could possibly recover from the scandal. The truth, once revealed, was more damning than anyone could have imagined. The situation in Dalton became a symbol of governance gone awry, where those entrusted with the community's future prioritized their own benefit above the public good. Public outrage, fueled by revelations of financial mismanagement, intimidation tactics, and abuse of power, made it clear that the village had been taken advantage of by those meant to protect it. The consequences of Henyard and Lacey's actions have left Dalton grappling with a profound loss of trust and a desperate need for accountability. As the investigation into the misappropriation of public funds continued, Dalton's residents were left to wonder if they would ever be able to move past the damage caused by the corrupt leadership that had once seemed untouchable. The unraveling of Henyard and Lacey's empire had turned Dalton into a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating impact of corruption on a community. The fallout from Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dalton, Illinois, continues to unravel, and the consequences of her and Deputy Chief Lacey's actions will be felt for years to come. While the full extent of the damage may never be fully understood, one thing is abundantly clear: the residents of Dalton are fed up. Corruption, financial mismanagement, and political games have destroyed their once peaceful community, leaving many questioning whether they can ever trust their local government again. The U.S. District Court's involvement has escalated the situation, with subpoenas being sent out across the village as part of a federal investigation into Henyard's administration. The intense scrutiny has prompted a wave of speculation: will Henyard and Lacey face jail time for their actions, or will they escape accountability as the investigation continues? It is clear that secrets will continue to come to light, and it's only a matter of time before more backdoor deals and misdeeds are revealed. The question now is how far this corruption will go and whether Henyard's crumbling power will finally come to an end. Despite the growing tide of discontent and the mounting legal challenges she faces, Henyard has audaciously declared that she is running for a second term as mayor. In a statement posted online, she boldly proclaimed, "I am running for re-election as mayor of Dalton." The nerve it takes to seek re-election in the wake of so many scandals is a remarkable example of her persistence, some might say arrogance. Henyard's confidence may stem from the belief that she can still hold on to power, but many wonder if this is just a desperate attempt to maintain some level of control over a situation that has already spiraled out of her hands. Henyard's re-election campaign is far from certain. She faces multiple opponents who are committed to cleaning up the mess her administration has created. One of her key challengers is Jason House, a trustee who has been at the forefront of the battle against Henyard's leadership. House and his team have built their campaign on the promise of ethical reform and accountability, hoping to restore trust in Dalton's government. House has made it clear that his slate aims to clean house and bring integrity back to the village administration, something that is sorely lacking under Henyard's rule. In a recent interview, House emphasized his commitment to fixing the many problems that have come to light during Henyard's tenure, stating, "We look forward to Election Day and hope the residents will vote for us to continue doing the work we've been doing." House and his team are unafraid to take Henyard head-on, calling out the chaos and corruption she has fostered. Meanwhile, Henyard refuses to back down, claiming that the attacks against her are politically motivated. In a fiery defense, she asserted that her opponents' accusations are nothing more than smear campaigns meant to undermine her leadership before the upcoming election. Henyard remains steadfast in her belief that she is the best person to lead Dalton. Even as more and more of her controversial actions are exposed, she is determined to fight for her position, insisting that she is committed to serving the village for another 4 years. Despite the growing calls for accountability and reform, the legal and political battle in Dalton is far from over. The federal investigation into Henyard and Lacey's activities is intensifying, and more revelations are likely to emerge in the coming months. The questions surrounding Lacey's involvement, in particular, continue to haunt the village. Was his appointment legitimate, or was it just another example of Henyard's questionable actions? Rumors have swirled for months about how Lacey was put in power, but no definitive answers have been provided. As more details surface, it becomes increasingly clear that the situation in Dalton is much worse than anyone initially believed. The corruption within Henyard's administration has already done significant damage to the village's reputation and to the community's trust in their leaders. For years, Dalton was seen as a quiet, tight-knit community where residents could rely on their local government to act in their best interests. That image has been shattered. People who once trusted their leaders are now questioning everything, including how the village government was allowed to deteriorate so dramatically. The financial mismanagement and blatant abuse of power have left many wondering how Dalton can recover from such a deep betrayal of public